There's about 13K Bitcoin that Bhutan owns as a country. We knew that they had several mines.
I thought, until speaking to you today, was that the mining project there is super secretive.
What if China banned, quote unquote, banned mining in order to get control of the mining industry and the mining equipment that they can get?
Hello and welcome to the Joe Nakamoto Show. I am the delight and pleasure to speak to Niko Yilch. We've just come off the main stage at Slovenia's NiceHash conference in, well, Slovenia. And Niko Yilch is someone I had to talk to today because during his presentation, he mentioned that he visited Bhutan, which is, of course, mining Bitcoin at a state or even royal level. And so this is Niko. The conversation we're about to have covers everything from mining Bitcoin in Bhutan to visiting there and reporting there firsthand to mining on a nation state level and what's going to happen if China bans Bitcoin once more. Okay, right. Niko, where are we in the world?
Joe, first of all, nice to see you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Maribor in Slovenia, south of Austria, where I'm from.
Oh, is that really near to where you're from?
Yeah. It's we're neighbors. It's like 2.5 hours with the car from Vienna.
So that is a very close destination to travel from, because the place that I wanted to talk to you about today is what, 6,000 miles away in the Himalayas.
I didn't check, but when it goes more than 2,000, 3,000 miles, I think it doesn't really matter. Yeah, Bhutan at the other end of the world.
Exactly. And why do we want to talk about Bhutan? Because Bhutan is one of the very few nation states to be publicly mining Bitcoin. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
That's true. So you want me to introduce myself first, or should we?
Yeah, I'm going to set the premise in that. So we've just come off the main stage here in Slovenia and Maribor. You gave this really great talk about the past year, the crazy year of 2024. Within that, you had this 2 slides about Bhutan.
Yeah.
In fact, you visited Bhutan. And I want to go to Bhutan. I think lots of people want to go there. I saw in the YouTube comments of your documentary that one guy said that his wife really likes Bhutan travel and he really likes Bitcoin, and finally their interests have marriage together.
The big B's, right? Bhutan and Bitcoin.
Exactly. What else do you need? Bugatti, maybe.
So I was there as a speaker at the Bhutan Innovation Forum, which was they told us it's the biggest conference that the country has ever seen. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a small country in the Himalayas, a Buddhist country that people probably know for their gross national happiness. Mm-hmm. So they are trying to find other ways to measure success in life.
Yeah,
we measure success. We, as Bitcoiners, we know we measure success in the most stupid way possible by ever-inflating dollar values, right? So Bhutan really is a special place when it comes to these spiritual topics, right? So that's why his wife wants to go there, because it has this aura of something really different. And it is really different. It's very exotic. Getting there is very hard. You have to spend money every day. There's like a sustainability fee that you have to pay.
It's $100, isn't it?
It's $100 now. It was even more before.
Yeah.
But $100 if you go there with your wife or even kids for 2 weeks, you can do the math, right? It's a lot of money. And the reason why they do it is they didn't want to end up like Nepal, which is next door, who has a lot of tourism to the mountains, right?
Okay.
So and Mount Everest and that stuff, right? It's one of the reasons. Bhutan is a very small country, 700,000 people. Most of them live not in rural areas and not in cities. 50 years ago, I read a little bit about 50 years ago, they were all farmers living off the land, right? And they moved into the cities now, which brings problems, you know. It's not like the happiness is all encompassing. There's problems with like unemployment now, depression, violence, that stuff. But it's still a small scale, I think.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel that when you were there?
No, not at all. No. Because when you come from like our fiat obsessed West, all you feel is like the warmth of the people. Like they are extremely nice. They're extremely forthcoming. Everybody speaks English.
Really?
Everybody speaks English because the official language in school is English. So geopolitically, Nepal is in between China and India.
Massive superpowers.
Massive superpower. Well, I mean, they want to be massive superpowers, but we're not talking about that today.
Yeah.
And the story goes that couple of decades ago, so I asked one of the government officials how the relationship with China is, and he said there is none. So basically, they are a protectorate of India, geopolitically. They also use a currency that is pegged to the Indian rupee. They have their own currency with their king on the currency, but it's pegged to the rupee. And a couple of decades ago, when the Indian Prime Minister came to visit, they were still speaking like Hindu in the schools. Like this, they were speaking one of the Indian languages. I don't know too much about India, but that's the story. And then when the then king went to India, he realized that the Indian kids are learning English in school. So then he decided, no, our kids are also learning English in school now because so everybody speaks English.
And so the king has the power to, because this is relevant to the Bitcoin stuff, the king has the power to just say tomorrow, you're all learning English. Forget the Hindi or the...
So basically, the king who is in power today, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. You can look it up on Wikipedia. He is about, I think he's 43 or 44.
Okay.
So he's a young king. He was educated in the West, in Cambridge, I think, something, Oxford or Cambridge.
He's 43.
He's 43.
What if I know someone who went to university with him?
It's possible.
That'd be cool.
It's possible.
It's like how Kim Jong-un went to university in Switzerland. He went to high school in Switzerland for 2 years, and people didn't know who he was.
So I've never met Kim Jong-un, but I'm pretty sure that the king of Bhutan is nicer.
Yeah.
So he's a young king, and he and his wife, they're like when I told my wife about going to Bhutan, she said, yeah, I know the king from Instagram, because he's like they're like this. They're like the Meghan, what is Meghan and William? Meghan and Harry. They're like the Meghan and Harry or the William and Kate of East Asia, right? Because they're very pretty and okay.
And
happy. So the king, the new king, he did some, democratic reforms. He gave up some power, but yes, it's still a monarchy. He's still a king. He's basically a godlike figure there, and he's like the protector of all people in Bhutan. And
paintings in people's houses.
There are paintings in people's houses.
It's like Tunisia or Morocco, this sort of lauding of this higher power.
I mean, you still have a king, so right?
Yeah, but we do not worship King Charles.
Last time I checked, you should do it. Yeah.
He's not been replaced by the lizards yet, as they say.
As far as you know. But it makes sense in a very, very remote country that has these deep spiritual roots. And besides the fact that they are very known for their Buddhism and the happiness and the what they call mindfulness, they're also known to be super environmentalists. Like that's the other part of not having so many tourists, right? They have like the percentage of tree cover in the country is like part of their constitution.
Amazing.
Which is still exceeded, right? So they are like the greenest country on earth. They run exclusively on hydropower.
Yeah.
And that's also where the connection with Bitcoin comes in.
You said that on stage today. You said, take that Greenpeace, or words to that effect, because here you have a country which, as you mentioned, has tree coverage in the constitution. It has 100 or more than 110% hydropower, because the thing is, it has surplus hydropower.
Yeah, sometimes. Depends on the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, when you conjure up an image of Bhutan, you do imagine mountainous, sort of, I know Tibetan style is wrong, but those sort of sloped roofs.
No, it's pretty tops. It is pretty true. It is pretty. When you see that, like the monasteries, they look like a little bit in other parts. I've never been to Tibet, but like the image is true. You have these beautiful monasteries in the mountains where the monks live, and so basically what they have is their spirituality, their religion, their history, and their nature. And they don't have industry, not really, because it's so hard to really build something up for just 700,000 people, and importing and exporting is super expensive and super hard. The only way to get into the country by plane is going into like the airport of Paro, which is the second biggest city, and you can only land there if you have like special license. It's very dangerous.
Is the altitude like a 3,000 meters or something?
It's because of the altitude, but it's because of the mountains that are around.
Oh, right? Drop below.
So when you leave there, I went there via Bangkok pretty easily, like a direct flight from Vienna to Bangkok and then a direct flight to Bhutan. It's not that big of a deal, but you cannot like book a flight on some like from Vienna. You have to do 2 separate flights because it's only the Royal Airline of Bhutan who actually goes into Bhutan because of the dangers, right? And then, I mean, I have to say that the pilots were amazing. I never thought that there was any problems, really.
Do you feel that as you're coming in there, is it kind of like landing in, I mean, a comparison is like Madeira or like the Canary Islands?
It is something like Madeira but the danger is different. The danger in Madeira is you drop into the ocean. The danger in Bhutan is you crash on the mountain. But I have to say, nothing, like I did the research, nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happened. Because they are very well trained and they know what they're doing, right? But what I wanted to say is when we arrived there, we didn't have like a stopover. But when we left, we actually had to do a stopover in India because you cannot leave Bhutan with a full airplane. It's too heavy. So you have to refuel in India in order to go the rest of the way.
Wow.
Okay. So
just on that point, Niko, this is why I wanted to talk to you and why I was like, we need to sit down and have this conversation together, because it's not only just really hard to get to Bhutan, you know, all these challenges you're describing, but on top of that, it's mega expensive.
Yeah.
And also the thing that I thought until speaking to you today was that the mining project there is super secretive. Like you can do, and I've done this, Google Earth imaging of Bhutan to work out where these hydro dams are. You can see those. Then in mining facilities, you're kind of looking at it being like, okay, is that the mining facility there? Because you don't know. And so how did you get this access?
So we didn't get access to the mining facilities. But then we knew that before, right? It's not like in El Salvador where they show off their mining, but the reason is that their mining is actually substantial, other than in El Salvador. It's very exotic going there. It's like one of the most exotic places you can still reach. That's why I had to go there. And I was there to talk about Bitcoin, but the word Bitcoin was not anywhere in the agenda, right? It was all blockchain, crypto, blah, blah. You know the deal, right? It's like if you don't want to offend anyone or whatever. There's 2 reasons why they are keeping it on the down low, right? So let's set the stage. The stage is before I went there, we knew a lot about what they're doing. We knew that by research by some research firm, we knew that according to the addresses that they had analyzed, that there is about 13K Bitcoin that Bhutan owns as a country. We knew that they had several mines. There was a Forbes article that really did this analysis with the satellite images, right? We also knew that they are not talking about this. So when we went there and we talked to the government officials, so first of all, it's completely strange because in the West or even like other parts of Asia, when you talk about Bitcoin, the government is not open about it. They're like, we don't want it. It's for money launderers. We have better money. What do you want from me? But because the king is actually pro-Bitcoin, and the king is the king, right? So all the bureaucrats and all the people working in government, they just fall in line, right? I talked to somebody, I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody pretty high up in the central bank. And the first thing this person said to me was, money has been invented long before central banks. And I was like, yeah, we go to Euro and talk to Christine Lagarde, explain this to her. And then she asked me, what do you think the role of central banks is going to be in a Bitcoin world? And I'm like, do you have like a camera hidden somewhere? You're trying to, is this a joke? But she meant it, right? Of course, they don't have their own currency. Like El Salvador, they do not have their own currency. So it's not that dangerous for them to introduce Bitcoin, right?
What currency do they use?
They use their own currency, but it's back to the rupee.
Right? To the rupee because it's protectorate status.
Okay. Yeah, and it's not officially protectorate status. It's just in de facto. So the government people from the Bhutanese Sovereign Wealth Fund, who is doing all the Bitcoin mining, they are like, it's like going to a Bitcoin conference. They know everything. It's absolutely insane. And then when you have the head of the and you can show the video. I've got the video. When you have the head of the government wealth fund, of the sovereign wealth fund, talking about how Bitcoin is an economic battery and they see it as an asset of the future.
Dollar talk, isn't that?
Exactly. It's insane. And so the thing is this: they produce hydro energy. One of the very, very few industries that they have, right? Because they have all the water coming down the mountains, basically. They export their energy. When there's a surplus, they export it to India. But India is not giving them a good price. When there is a dry season, they have to import energy from India, and India is again not giving them a good price because they have no choice, right? Bitcoin gives them a choice. with Bitcoin, you can export your energy into the Bitcoin system at any point, and Bitcoin does not ask any questions, and you get Bitcoin. Of course, you can only do this in a country that is prepared to actually hold the Bitcoin, deal with the Bitcoin. But from the point of Bhutan, it's a big advantage, because it not only are they not getting a good price from India, they are also only getting Indian rupee. And there is a limit to how much you can sell on the market for euros and dollars and other stuff that you need to get other stuff into the country. But you can always sell Bitcoin for currency. So they're not doing this on a big scale because they're stacking and they're literally hodling. But that's the plan. One thing they also did that I think is a way smarter than basically what El Salvador did. El Salvador gave Bitcoin to everybody, but it was not well explained. It just didn't work out. Most of the people just, sought someone who would buy it from them and then never thought about it again.
Yeah, they cashed out. Yeah.
So in Bhutan, many people work for the government because there isn't a big private industry, and the government just basically doubled everybody's income, at least doubled it, and told them it was because of the Bitcoin mining.
So got UBI, Universal Bitcoin Income.
It's interesting. Yeah, maybe. I mean, one of the reasons is because they really need people, like young people, to stay in the country, because many young people just leave the country because they don't have any opportunities there, right?
There's a lot of Bangladeshi, Nepalese, Bhutanese people in Portugal. Yeah, such a specific demographic of people, and it's the entry point into Europe, and a lot of really friendly, lovely people, and it's such an easy demographic to spot because they are quite Buddhist, and they practice this mindfulness. And one of them, there's a local corner shop that just opened up, and we're quite matey now. And I'm always asking.
And he's from Bhutan.
And this guy is Bangladeshi.
Oh, Bangladeshi.
They all speak. I don't know. That's really horribly groupist of it. Hello, but there's a real vibe about this part of the world.
Yeah.
And
so Bangladesh is close, because when you look at the map, it's basically you have India, then on the east of India you have Bangladesh, and then there is a small strip of India, and then like north of that is Bhutan, right? And then it's also geopolitics wise, Bhutan is going to be very interesting because there is like a plateau. There's the so-called chicken neck that connects the main part of India to the part that is above Bangladesh, right? It's a chicken neck. It's only 20 kilometers wide, and you can control it from a plateau that's in Bhutan. So guess who had the idea to come in there and build some infrastructure road project officially with soldiers? It's the Chinese, right?
Yeah.
Because the Chinese are just saying, well, this is ours now, right? Basically, because Bhutan cannot do anything, and they did this with 3 different regions in Bhutan. Basically just to piss off the Indians.
Right. Okay.
But that's a different story. So Bhutan, in my eyes, has one of the most serious and thoughtful approaches to Bitcoin from a government standpoint that I've seen so far. Not only are they staking and hodling, they're also mining, and they spend considerable parts of their currency reserves, probably up to half, 50%, for Bitcoin mining equipment.
Wait, so say that's huge. So their currency reserves, which is in the rupee or whatever, they're spending half of it on just maintenance of all these.
No. They spent half of it in the years 2023 through 2024 before the halving. They bought Bitcoin mining equipment for about $500-600 million,
which is massive considering their GDP what's their GDP, like 2-3 billion?
It's 3 billion. So if my country, Austria, would do the same, we also have almost 100% hydro energy, by the way, and Austrian engineers have helped Bhutan build that up as well. And if my country, Austria, would do the same thing, we would spend about 50 billion just on Bitcoin mining equipment. There's like just ASICs basically.
So they really are all in. It's truly a Bitcoin revolution that's taking place there.
I would absolutely say so. One of the reasons they are not so, the first reason they don't really talk about it so much is why, right? Why would you advertise this to the world? When you ask them, do you guys have 13,000 Bitcoin? We're not saying we don't have them, basically, is what they say. That we're not, what's the word? We're not,
publicly disclosing it?
Yeah. We're not, there's this word when you say it's not true, right? My head is exploding.
Confirm or deny it.
Yeah, we're not denying it. Right? We're not denying it that it's happening, but and then And then you asked him, yeah, but and how about the Bitcoin mining? Are you really mining in these locations? We're like, did you? And they said, yeah, that's what we're doing. And then we asked them, so why don't you say that before? And they just said, well, nobody asked.
I've been asking. I've been reaching out to people in Bhutan since the news dropped on the Forbes article in particular. But then it's the cost, it's the challenge.
One of the main reasons they don't want to talk about it so much is also because, of course, they get lots of money from the West in form of aid.
That's such a catch-22, isn't it?
And they don't want, like, the World Bank and other institutions like the EU. They don't want to hear about that their money gets used for Bitcoin mining.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But why did they not let you, but you're clearly a Bitcoin journalist. Like it's not hard to discover that Niko Yilch spends all his time talking about Bitcoin, and you went to this, what was it, BIP, the Innovation Hub thing.
So, I mean, mostly, like, none of the number information that I can give you is new.
Right.
It's all been out in the open before. It's all in the Forbes article, which is pretty good. It's all in the articles that are published in the local media. There is English language newspapers who are publishing this. They didn't give us anything new. But what it showed was that they are serious about this. For example, it's in the start they needed to export the machines when there was problems, sending them back to basically China and where they come from, right? In order to get repaired. And then we realized this is too expensive, so now they have their own industry with 150 people working on repairing hash boards.
Okay.
And they are building up this knowledge about how to use Bitcoin to monetize surplus energy and renewable energy. And of course, at some point, if they are smart about this, they need to export this knowledge, just like the Austrian engineers exported their knowledge about hydro energy decades ago to Bhutan, right? And I think if they're smart about it, and they seem to be very smart about it, they shouldn't be shy with this. But of course, you need some sort of communication plan, basically.
Does give credence to that idea, or the way in which Trump describes Bitcoin? He always describes it as the new oil. And the way in which you describe this knowledge sharing, this expertise exporting. Because people,
did he really say the new oil?
Yeah, that's how he supposedly orange pilled some high up or high net worth individuals. It was on What Bitcoin Did. The quote. I didn't hear this myself from Trump. I heard it from Peter McCormack describing what Trump.
Because the interesting thing is, if he said it's the new oil, does he mean it's something that you use to drive a car, or does he mean it's something that you use to back the dollar?
I thought he just meant it in terms of this is the new industry that's going to be the next.
Oh yeah,
the
next big the next gold rush. Basically.
Yeah, we define this century, and what does oil bring, as well as like the actual commodity? It's all the knowledge, it's all the expertise. Like you think about oil discoveries now, they're still the biggest thing ever, and they never rely on local talent. They rely on bringing across Americans or Austrians or whatever it may be.
Well, with oil, it's not going to be Austrians. But yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
I meant that for the hydropower stuff. But
for the hydropower, yeah. That's interesting. That is, yeah, of course. I mean, when you look at what Trump talked about at the Bitcoin conference, all the talk was about how he said it's going to be a Bitcoin reserve and this and that and Russ Ulbricht, which is fine. But he also talked about how he wants to make America the country with the cheapest energy, and how he wants to have Bitcoin mining in the country to provide that and use that, right? That's how you build up your energy capacities, by having Bitcoin mining there to take the excess energy. Iceland has been doing this with aluminium for decades.
And that sort of segues onto the next question. Like, when you were there, were you able to get a temperature check on what the average Bhutanese person thinks about Bitcoin? Given that, is it the king is so loved and respected that he could pick up Ethereum tomorrow and be like, well, we're going to start staking Ethereum. It's going to be great. Do they not care just because it's the king, or do they have their own sort of agency with regards to these things?
So I think officially they do hold some Ethereum, but it's less than one.
Oh, really? I just said that for a joke, but oh, it's true. You can see that on the Arkham holdings.
Yeah. But I laughed about this. It's like, okay, they had 13,000 Bitcoin, but like if I find my old wallets, I might have as much Ethereum as they do. No, but no, it's completely different than El Salvador. There is no official Bitcoin policy. There's no official Bitcoin usage. It's not a thing at all. It really isn't. The the government, the central bank is running the payment system basically. So Bhutanese people are used to using QR codes instead of what we do with NFC, right? But no, it's not a topic at all. It really isn't. There were people, like local people at the conference who talked to people like me, and they are now into Bitcoin, right? Because I think that one thing I would tell them is that you have to also get the people in, right? Like if they see that Bitcoiners are coming there to actually see what they are doing, maybe the young people don't want to leave anymore, but stay and do their thing there. And this is basically what it's about. It's not so much about, and it's about getting access to global markets. And I think it's a very, 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 very smart move by the king, basically, and by the government. I don't want to. I don't even want to give out too much information, but I don't really know anything more than that. Right?
You spoke to the king personally.
I did.
What's he like?
Very nice. Very nice guy. What do you want me to say? It's like
when I've
very normal, very because when you go there, it's like you have to look him like there's like this protocol and stuff. But when we meet him, you see that he went to the university in the West. He's not expecting you to follow the protocol. It's like nice and respectful, obviously, but he's a very, very interesting guy, I have to say. I would love to interview him and talk to him about not even Bitcoin, but like other stuff. It's very, very interesting. I come from a country, we don't have like a monarchy anymore. It's actually in Austria after World War I, and the end of the Habsburgs, monarchy was actually outlawed. So there's royalty was outlawed.
They're all in the UK anyway. The Habsburgs were basically British monarchy now anyway, if you go back far enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's always some Austrians and some Germans if you go back far enough, right?
So let's switch gears, because I think that it's fascinating and it makes me really happy and excited in a weird way. But at the same time, we're talking about states mining Bitcoin. And I know the white paper doesn't say it, but a lot of Bitcoin sort of ethos, a lot of Bitcoin culture we project onto Bitcoin is the idea of separation of money and state.
Yeah.
And yet here we are, excited by this 100% green energy, gross happiness index country that's mining Bitcoin.
Fair enough.
And it's doing it by effectively sort of royal decree, as opposed to doing it by a plebiscite or a democratic movement. How does this make you feel as a Bitcoiner? How do you square this in your head?
So first of all, it really makes me think about what Saylor said about Bitcoin is there if you need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
For them, it's a very, very unique solution to a very, very unique situation.
Okay.
And they wouldn't be doing this if the king or other people in the government wouldn't know about Bitcoin so well, right? There must be people in the government who really know about Bitcoin, because otherwise you wouldn't be doing this on this grand scale. It's also not just about like mining Bitcoin and getting Bitcoin. It's also about having a technology industry and about having something that other places don't have. So it's not so much about that. In general, how do I feel about the state doing this? Well, it's the same as with the ETFs, right? In an ideal world,
no, it's better than the ETFs in a way.
Because of the mining, because of the connection with energy, which I think is one of the most important like narrative points also that we really have to conquer, because it's like I don't know enough about proof of work, but I'm very emotional about this, because the story that we have in our media is so wrong. It's like 100% wrong. Bitcoin is not bad for the environment and that stuff, but so that's good. But with the state, I mean, that's what you would expect, basically. I mean, it's not like I think it's naive to think that just because there is this thing now, the state will just say, okay, we're not meddle in money anymore. You're right. This is way better. And no. And also there's it's a two-sided coin, because we're worried. I mean, there's literally people. I've talked to a guy like Florian Bruce, who is a brilliant guy, a German guy who does he talks to like family offices about Bitcoin, right? He was in Zurich in Switzerland in 2024, shortly before Trump was elected, right? And they asked him, yeah, well, it's all good, it's all fine and good, but what if the government outlaws it, right? So for 16 years, we had to hear this question. So now the government does not only not outlaw it, it embraces it, and then we are still not happy. Because now, but that's what it is. If it doesn't outlaw it, it will embrace it in some way, and it's our job to educate people about the fact that Bitcoin is only special if people hold it in cold wallets, at least, like, say, like ballpark 1/3 of the Bitcoin globally needs to be in this. So
do you know what their custody solution is?
no.
I guess it's not the sort of thing that they're going to be that public about.
No, it's probably not something that they are going to advertise, right? But that's one of the challenges that you have. Like look at the structure of Bitcoin. It's better for the individual anyway, right? If you're an individual, it's easy to hold Bitcoin. If you're a family, it's okay to hold Bitcoin. If you're a small company, it's easier. But if you're a big company, it's harder. And if you're a government, it gets really hard, because it
wasn't made for them though. That's the point. It was made for peers. It was made for peer-to-peer.
It was made for peer-to-peer, yes. But one of the advantages of having a gold reserve is that it's very hard to steal 200 tons of gold, right? So it's a big operation, right? But that's also one of the reasons why it was centralized in the government basements in the first place. Bitcoin does not need to be centralized by governments, and it probably won't be. But I have this interview series on my channel, which is a German channel, and it's with an Austrian guy who is 84 years old. He's an IT pioneer and also an artist. And he built up a company called Beko, which is one of the main IT infrastructure companies starting in the 60s. So he built up basically the whole IT infrastructure that the Austrian government, that the banks are still running on today, right? They have the floppy disk IBM machines in the basement, right? And he's been a Bitcoiner since 2012, when he was in his 70s. And he's very far, like he's super plugged in. He reads everything that Michael Saylor says, or watches everything, and he knows everything. He knows way more than I do. And his theory is basically that we're going to have 3 distinct parts of the Bitcoin market. We're going to have the grassroots original Bitcoin usage on the main chain and the Lightning Network and other Bitcoin native layer 2 solutions where we just interact with each other, right? That's the main Bitcoin. Then there's got to be a financial Bitcoin sector, which is like the ETFs and the whole derivatives market, where you invest in Bitcoin without holding it, right? And the third part is the sovereign, is what the governments do. And when the governments do anything with money, it gets murky. It's very murky. We don't know, for example, who actually, like in the structure of the American government, who is actually now the owner of the gold. Officially, it's the Treasury, but it's also on the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. In the European system, the gold that's in the cellars in Vienna and in Berlin is also on the balance sheet of the Euro system. But when the shit hits the fan, who really, whose goal is it really, right? So these is very murky. Like when governments get involved into assets, it gets very murky. We see this with Bitcoin as well. We don't know what the governmental custody solution is with Bitcoin in Bhutan. When I went to El Salvador, first thing I asked is, well, it's nice that you have a couple thousand Bitcoin, but where do you actually hold it? Like on what balance sheet? Like what entity is officially owning it, right? It cannot just be Bukele's cell phone, right? Or his Spitbox. And they didn't tell you because they don't have an answer.
So with it being democratic in El Salvador, when there is eventually transition of power and Bukele has to stand down, he could just piss off to some faraway island with all that Bitcoin and do whatever he wants because he got all that Bitcoin.
Yes, I mean, this is a real possibility.
But with Bhutan, it's slightly better, marginally, purely because it's royalty. And when he dies, presumably it just goes straight to his heir.
So yeah, you have this if the king holds the Bitcoin really like in that way, yeah, you have more planability, and you have more like the combination of individual ownership, family ownership, and country. Yeah, in that way, that's true.
And they're more better prepared for it because they're used to storing like the crown jewels and like those things that belong to royalty. Right. Yeah, they're more like an individual than a sort of a state entity which has all the bureaucracy and stuff that comes with it.
And there's more like even like tradition, honor, and stuff like that would prevent. I mean, just like a person like that who was born into being the king, you know, it's very hard to imagine him just fleeing with the money and just living a high life in Dubai. What the hell? I mean,
It'd be such a great story, though.
I mean, he could still. So, but yeah, but going back to reality. So we don't know about that. We don't know. Like in this example with these 3 different Bitcoin sections, right? My argument, and I think it's important, not just because it's my argument, but because I did think about this, is that the value proposition of Bitcoin is only plausible if the real Bitcoin market that we talked about and that we all come from exists and is healthy. Because if it's only a total form of speculation that is literally not used outside the fiat system, then I would say it failed. Then you have a situation basically the same as with gold today, right? But because Bitcoin is so easily redeemable, and we already talk about in-kind redemption from ETFs, right? I hope and suspect that this check on the system will always be there. That's what I see Bitcoin in the future being, is like, it's a global form of digital gold standard that is flexible, because you can literally you can take your money out of the bank at any point in time. And very few people are going to leave their Bitcoin with a bank that is not giving them that option. And that's what I see. So or what I think we're going to see. But, I could be wrong, obviously.
Can't find a reason to argue with it right now, but I imagine someone is listening to this going, in which case, comment down below.
Sure. I mean, I like my thinking changes as well. It's just like, for example, when we talk about the ETFs, like, yeah, but what about, the Roosevelt took away the gold and
The 618 stuff, yeah.
Yes, but the gold, he took away the gold because there was a gold standard. Saylor explains it the same way. He needed it for the international system of money. Now he can just, print dollars and buy Bitcoin. Why would he or mine them, right? Why would they just take away? If the American government, which is the most reliable government when it comes to the rule of law on a big scale, it still is, right? Goes and just, takes away people's Bitcoin, BlackRock, the biggest asset manager in the world, will just cease to exist. Nobody will store their money with them anymore, right? So basically, that the existence of BlackRock, like the existence of the state, because the question was, how do I see the involvement of the state? If the state has an interest in this, first of all, he says it's real, and second, it also means that like if the state wants its part, it also has to be careful to not, kill the source, you know what I mean? If they want to drink from the well, they cannot just, they have to be careful to not have the well dry up, right? So there's an interest of the state for Bitcoin to actually function and work. And I think that mining, and that's why Bhutan is so interesting. I think mining is going to be the main source of state and government influence in Bitcoin. If you've asked me, I will only believe the strategic reserve thing that Trump talked about when I see it, because I think this is still way to go. But the mining, I think, is something that's already happening, and he's just going to double down on that.
To sort of encapsulate all the Bhutan experience, like, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from having been around the people that are mining Bitcoin on this nation state level and doing it in a really effective way? Is it that, you got to see it to believe it?
I didn't see the mine, right? I have to say that. There's stories about funny Bitcoiners are going there and looking through the fence, taking pictures.
That was going to be me.
It's like Area 51, like Area 21.
Yeah. Good.
But in the end, it's just containers with Bitcoin miners. Look, it's the same takeaway that I would, you remember China banning mining, right?
Yeah.
Well,
banning mining.
Exactly, banning mining. We still have 10 or 20% of the hash rate coming out of China. Why?
The day of the election, there was like 20 blocks in a row. There were ample Binance pool. Is that I forget which pool it is, but it was all just China. It's like, wow.
It's another way the government gets involved. I talked to a Bitcoiner from Venezuela. He said, well, we've all been mining Bitcoin for years because energy is free and our money is shit, right? So what did the government do? The government started up the petro. You remember that? And he said the petro was never about having a real currency. That was never the plan. They wanted to, the petro was just a cover for a roadshow that the government did to show the local authorities what Bitcoin miners looked like. He said that they were going through the country and showing them the Bitcoin miners. And then you have the clampdown. Venezuela is outlawing Bitcoin mining, not because they want to get rid of the Bitcoin mining. They want to get the machines. And now the elite is mining the Bitcoin. And I believe the same thing is happening in China. So that's a way worse form of getting involved, right? And if we talk about this, I mean, come on, they are probably all mining Bitcoin by now. That's why the hash rate is going up, right? There's even this. Yeah, there are so many stories. I don't want to get into rumors or whatever, but I think that Bhutan is doing this in the most, maybe the best way possible, right?
Healthy,
yeah, it's healthy, and it just shows me that it's real, and that they take it very seriously. Like countries can take it very seriously, and maybe the really secret stuff that they will never tell us is like what other monarchs are mining. If you look, if I was like, what do you think the Saudis are doing? Seriously, think about it. If they have energy en masse, right? I mean, I don't know if they're mining Bitcoin, but I'm pretty sure that they know about it.
Oman is, I don't know about Kuwait, or is it Qatar? I know there's a couple that aren't.
Qatar, I think, there was like a story. It's always so murky with these stories, right?
And that's why you've got to see it. And that's why I want to talk to you, because you went there and, okay, you didn't see the mines themselves, but you talked to the decision makers who are actively sort of instructing people on why they should mine. And you see with your eyes, you talk to these people and you're like, okay, this project is legit. Because you read this headline, tiny gross happiness nation is mining Bitcoin. You're like, bullshit, next article. Let's, it doesn't make sense. It's so true that you're telling all this stuff. It's like, okay, not only is it happening, but it's happening in a really, healthy, sustainable way. But then you start to join the dots of, okay, there must be other places doing this on maybe a bigger scale, because Bhutan, as you say, tiny nation, very poor, 2 billion GDP. And that's also the other thing, which is like, well, you can also just write it off as, it's just Bhutan. Most Americans can't tell you where Bhutan is on the map.
That was the answer for El Salvador when I did talks about Bitcoin for in 21 or whatever, in front of big banks. It's like, yeah, but I will tell them El Salvador is using it as a currency, and the answer is but who cares about El Salvador, right? Yeah. And so it comes down to the whole thing, like Michael Saylor said, it's about Bitcoin is there if you need it. And there is a poetic beauty in this, right? That we from rich Western countries, we only in Bitcoin because we are paranoid and we know our history and we know that the facade that we see every day is not reality, right? That these things can change. We are in Slovenia, which it's almost unfair calling it Eastern Europe, but it's not like everything's unfair. But you know what I mean. They are part of the Eastern Bloc, not of the Soviet Union. But when you go to any part of Eastern Europe that was part of the Soviet Union, people know a lot about this. When you talk to American Bitcoiners, and you talk to them long enough, many will have a history of fleeing their country, often of migration, of Eastern European descent, right? So it is there for people who need it, and this is true on the personal level, the family level, the corporation or company level, and also on the sovereign level. And when you look at it, it does make sense, because China. Okay, let's put it this way. First of all, you cannot put Bhutan, the Bhutan revolution into the thumbnail. This is not about Bitcoin as a strategic asset globally, and Bhutan is just one of the people will click it more. Yeah. We should also have a price prediction. So
You're telling me what to do as my thumbnail.
is the price prediction. The price prediction is if Bitcoin goes to the if Bitcoin is something akin to gold also for governments, and if Bitcoin goes to the current market cap of gold, we would be at 850K. This is not my price prediction. I'm just saying it once so you can put it in the thumbnail.
Okay, yeah, we've had a really, really long day. I think we can wrap it up there unless you want to say something.
I want to because I have this thought right now, so I have to get it out there.
Okay, of course.
So what if China banned, quote unquote, banned mining in order to get control of the mining industry and the mining equipment that they can get, right? What if, we know Trump looks at China, right? And we say that Bitcoin is there for the ones who need it. Maybe the US realized in this moment that they actually need to take the whole Bitcoin mining, especially the mining. They can always print money and buy Bitcoin on the market, right? Is theoretically you can drive the price of Bitcoin to infinity. So, but the mining is the key because of the hardware, the energy, and for me still. And maybe this is what Trump is reacting to, right? And for me, still, like this part that he talked about, America being the country with the lowest energy prices, is still the biggest part of the whole speech, and it fits perfectly into the whole narrative of Bitcoin mining, and it fits perfectly with what we see in Bhutan. And it would be interesting to see if I don't know, some American experts are now going to Bhutan to check out what they're doing. I don't know.
Or Austrian.
Yeah, maybe that. I mean, for us in Europe, we would have a big interest into getting into Bitcoin in order to get capital and sovereignty and stuff like that. But Europe is a complete basket case. I don't have to tell you this.
That's a great note to finish on.
Yeah, I think so too.
Niko, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. That was Niko Yilch. Thank you so much for watching. And another thank you to Plan B Network, the best place to learn about Bitcoin and one of my sponsors. There is a great section on mining, for example, where you can go a bit deeper down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I would also like to thank Coin Corner. Coin Corner is a wonderful place to get your hands on some Bitcoin, and they're based in the UK and they've been going for over 10 years, so they're good. I have been Joe Nakamoto, and if you hit subscribe, I will bring you some more Bitcoin content very soon. Thank you so much.